This is the Nike Pegasus 38. For years, the Nike Pegasus has arguably been the epitome of daily trainers. But in its 38th iteration, can the Pegasus still stack up to its younger competition? It's time to lace up these shoes and put them to the test. .28 miles, 8 minutes, 31 seconds per mile, and 143 beats per minute today. Going for a mostly easy run with a couple of strides thrown in there and a little bit of marathon effort and threshold effort just to make sure that I get a chance to put the Pegasus 38 through the paces. Now, before I give you my thoughts on this shoe after just the first run, I do want to go over some disclosures. This is a pair of shoes that I purchased with my own money. No one sent it to me and no one's paying me to make this video. No one's going to get a chance to preview any of my footage or my thoughts before you guys get a chance to see this video on YouTube. So with that disclosure out of the way, let's talk about the new Pegasus 38. I think the first thing that I'll say about this shoe is that I think I need a little bit more testing before I can give you even kind of like my preliminary thoughts and conclusions on this shoe. Normally I do a first run video and give you kind of my first impressions of the shoe. But today, a couple of things came up where I do really think that I need to chase that down a little bit further. And I wanted to put that out there at the outset before I give you kind of the rundown of how this run went. So now with that being said, let's talk about the specs on this shoe. This shoe has 33 millimeters of stack height in the heel with a 10 millimeter drop. And for the most part, we've got a bunch of Nike's React foam in there. It is a bouncy, springy material. But also what we have in this shoe is an Air Zoom pocket. We saw a much bigger Air Zoom pocket in the 37 last year. We're seeing what I believe is the exact same Zoom Air pocket in the forefoot only of this shoe this year. On the outsole, I have a little bit of a different tread pattern on mine. I did a Nike by You to customize this Pegasus 38 just a little bit because I wasn't in love with some of the launch colors that were available. So I decided to take matters into my own hand and I went with the waffle pattern for the rubber that's on the outsole. Now it is that waffle design, kind of a throwback, if you will, but it laid out in the same kind of geometry and shapes that the regular Pegasus 38 will have. The other thing to note about the outsole of the shoe, or I guess the bottom of the shoe, is that there is like a concavity. It's something that I've noticed that Nike's been doing with the Pegasus. I don't know if it was in the 36, but I believe it was in the 36 Shield. And from then on, I feel like they've been putting a little bit of concavity in the outsole of the shoe. I'm not sure I like that. I'm not sure really exactly what it's doing, but I've seen it now in so many different Pegasus versions that it can't just be some sort of fluke or anomaly that I saw in whatever shoe that I happen to have purchased. There's definitely something going on in the bottom of the shoe. Up top, we have a sandwich mesh. There's kind of two types of material in here. There's a gusseted tongue, and that gusseted tongue material, it's kind of like a spandex type of material that's in here. I'm not sure if that's exactly what it is, but that forms almost like a booty in the full front in the toe box of the shoe. And then on top of that is this black material, which is a very soft and thin and stretchy mesh material that sits right on top. In the tongue, there is, in addition to the gusset, there is a padded tongue, a lot more padded and a little bit taller than it was last year. So definitely a change and in the direction that I generally don't like. I don't like it when shoes kind of like add puffiness as they go. Even for max cushion shoes, I feel like give me lots of cushion in the midsole. I don't want a lot of pillowy softness up top on the shoe. I generally find that it just makes the shoe a little bit hot. That's what we're seeing a little bit here. It's not excessive. It's not like a max cushion shoe, but we are seeing a little bit of padding in that tongue. And then around the heel, we've got a little bit of an Achilles flare and a decent amount of structure back here. It's not the most rigid heel cup I've seen on the market, but it's not a super floppy heel either. You can't like press it in. If we're comparing it to the 37, it looks pretty much identical to last year's, but I do think that this little flare part is getting smaller and smaller over time. So that, I don't know if I'm just imagining it or what, but it just seems to be a little less prominent and maybe have a little bit more padding around here in the parts that are going to touch the top of that heel bone. All told, this entire package comes in at a stated weight of 10.2 ounces, making it considerably heavier than the Pegasus 37 of last year. And I'm guessing a lot of that weight comes from the extra material that's not only in the tongue, but also just in the forefoot. It just seems like there's just a lot more fabric in this shoe. So what was this shoe like to run in? Now, I think a lot of you will kind of look at this shoe and say, it's just a Peg 37 with more padding in the tongue. And to some extent, you're right. But I think that even though on years when Nike says all they're doing is they're just doing an upper update on a shoe, I feel like changing the upper can change the way that the midsole and outsole perform. That's also possible. But I also don't kind of like put it past Nike, not that they're trying to do something sneaky, but not in this situation. I don't think that they're trying to like change the shoe like substantially and like not tell you guys about it. I think that if they were really wanting to make a substantial change in a shoe that they thought was better, they would let you know. It would be a really important marketing tool. But I do think that some of the things that they do in years where it's only an upper update is sometimes they might tweak the formulation of that midsole compound that's in there, or they might tweak the way that certain things are assembled. There might be some variances and differences over time now that they're in kind of year 2 of a shoe's production cycle, at least as far as the midsole goes. And I do feel like there are some differences. Now, of course, it's been a while since I've run in the Pegasus 37, so some of those differences could just be like my nostalgia or my memory of a shoe that I ran all the way to 100 miles in versus the feeling of running in a brand new shoe that may be, in fact, identical. But here are some of the differences that I found, and I'll still just talk about generally what the shoe's like in case you've never run in a Pegasus before. First thing that I noticed was that there is a lot more step-in comfort this year. It's a much more comfortable shoe to wear around. I found that last year's Pegasus wasn't the most, it looked great, but I didn't really want to wear it around. It just didn't feel all that fantastic. I felt like the upper was a little bit on the snug side. You're still getting quite a bit of snugness in the Pegasus 38, but I don't know if it's this material is more forgiving or if they've given you just a little bit more space kind of up in the toes, but it feels more comfortable to just be in it in terms of how much room there is for your feet. It just feels a little bit softer underfoot just when walking around or as I was getting started in the run. The first mile, I was just like, it's softer this year. I like that. And so the step-in comfort and just kind of like that initial comfort feeling is definitely there. It's a just much more comfortable shoe than it was for me than what I remember last year. And as I kept running in the shoe, I just felt like this is really great. A lot of the things that I thought were really good about the 37 are still here. And I was just super excited. And I thought, all right, all the issues that the 37 had, not that there were a ton and not that there were that many, but all those like little things that you nitpick at a shoe that is perennially one of the best shoes of the year as far as daily trainers go, a lot of those have been ironed out. And I thought it was going to be smooth sailing for this shoe. But for me, at around the 5 mile mark, here's where things start to kind of get off the rails a little bit. I started feeling pain in my right forefoot, almost as if like there was something going on with the Air Zoom pocket. And for all I know, there may be. I think what I need to do is probably try on a different pair. I don't know that I want to go out and buy another pair and have to do dueling comparisons of the same model of shoe. But I definitely felt a difference in terms of not necessarily how the shoe felt, but how my feet felt in terms of the left foot versus the right foot. The right foot definitely started feeling what I thought was a little bit of pain in that forefoot area. Now, the reason why I'm a little bit confused about this and thrown off about it and not immediately knocking the shoe for giving me this problem is that my right foot in the last few weeks, running a lot of miles, high mileage weeks, getting ready for a 50K, that foot, it's a little bit sore. So that is an area where like when a shoe is not agreeing with me, I really feel it there. It also might just be that I might be developing a little kind of like mini bruise under that spot. So I'm not really sure, and I'm not going to necessarily at this point blame the shoe for what's going on underfoot. And it's not the first time this has happened to me in a Pegasus before. I've mentioned it when in my long-term review of the Pegasus 36 Shield. That was a shoe where I experienced a similar thing.
such a disappointment because I've loved the 33 shield. I really enjoyed the 34 shield. I thought that one felt great as well. And I had such high expectations for the 35 shield, but it just doesn't quite live up to it. There's something that's not quite right.
Where in the right foot, it felt almost like that the Zoom Air pocket in the forefoot really wasn't quite working as well as the Zoom Air pocket in the left foot. And for the Pegasus 36 shield, I generally found myself only really wanting to run in that shoe
is when, for at least a substantial portion of the run, there's something soft for me to run on top of.
So that was kind of the way, like when I had that little tiny extra level of softness compared to pavement like asphalt or concrete, that's when I found like, all right, the shoe's really working for me. And I'm wondering if that's going to be the case with this one. I'll have to do a little bit more testing. I'll put some more miles in it before I kind of give you my final thoughts, but that's kind of like the full story of what's going on with this shoe. That happened to me after like about the 5 mile mark is when I started noticing it. By about 8 miles or so, 7 miles, right about when I started putting some strides in the shoe, that's when it started to really become a bigger issue. On the other hand, the good news was that once I started putting this shoe to some faster paces, like when I started going up to speed and doing some strides, that pain in the right foot disappeared completely. The Pegasus 38 is fantastic at going quickly. So for my strides that I did today, I think it's just that I'm hitting the forefoot of the shoe differently, and whatever it was that was bothering me about wherever the Zoom Air pocket is or the way my foot was hitting the ground, I was hitting a different part of the foot, and I just felt like I was flying in the shoe. It felt really great. The 10.2 ounces, the extra weight, didn't notice it. If there's any other bulk in this shoe, I didn't feel it at all. I just felt like I could get up to speed and stay there in a really controlled and easy way. So it was really nice to go fast in this shoe. After the set of 8 strides that I did, I also did about 2 or 3 minutes at a marathon effort and about 2 or 3 minutes at threshold pace, just to kind of see like, all right, at those different levels of effort, I'm going to be hitting the shoe in different places. What is that really going to feel like? And I felt like both of those paces felt comfortable in this shoe. So I feel like if you want a daily trainer that's going to be able to do a variety of different kinds of workouts, this shoe certainly is up to the task. It didn't completely ameliorate the foot problem that I was having down in the forefoot of my right foot. So again, it's something that I'm going to need to revisit. Hopefully I can baby my feet a little bit more, get them back to 100%, and then we'll get back into these shoes and see if I hopefully will avoid seeing that problem again. When I first started running in the Pegasus years ago, it was kind of the shoe that could do it all. I ran, I think, 2 marathons in a Pegasus shoe. It's a shoe that I've done lots of long runs in and shorter everyday runs too. But I feel like over the past couple of years, we're seeing a trend where the Pegasus seems to be a shoe that's geared more towards shorter, easy runs and faster workouts. It's not exactly a speed shoe, but it's slowly kind of creeping into the territory where I would kind of look at the Pegasus Turbo, which I don't know if we're going to see another Pegasus Turbo. There were early rumors about that, but I still haven't seen anything for it, and it's already almost June, so I'm not sure if we'll get one of those this year because we didn't see an update last year. But I feel like it's trying to get closer to fill the gap that not having a Pegasus Turbo has left. So I think that kind of what it wants to be and what I want it to be may be kind of diverging paths as well. So again, we'll have to see as I put more miles into it. As far as the upper goes, I do really like that there is more room in here, and I felt very comfortable in the upper the entire time I was running in the shoe for today. I mean, it's still a Nike running shoe, so there's snugness to it, but as compared to last year, I feel like it's a little bit roomier, and it's going to be a lot more forgiving. The couple things that I will note, though, is that I think that this material is going to be a little bit hot. So once we're getting into like the middle of the summer, I think that this shoe is going to get hot. I think it's going to get sweaty, and I think it's going to stay sweaty. I definitely got the shoes wet today, and like it reminded me like of a lot of previous Pegasus where once they get wet, some of the versions, depending on the upper materials that they choose, they stay wet for a long time, and I think that's what's going on with this one as well. So it's not a quick drying shoe, so any moisture you are getting in here, it's going to stay in there for a little bit. So when you are in the middle of summer, you want to make sure you air this shoe out after a long sweaty run, so that way it stays fresh, or at least something that you could live with in your house as the summer months go on. So overall, I would say I'm cautiously optimistic about the Pegasus 38. I really liked what I was feeling for the first 5 miles and in the strides. I'm hoping that in future runs, I'll have more of those experiences and less of some of the discomfort that I had in the forefoot in this run. Only future runs will be able to tell which one of those two things is going to happen. Hit the subscribe button so you can see the progress that I have with this shoe as time goes by. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of the video. Hopefully you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?